the Dakman Productions, and welcome to Conrail. And today's video, this is April 1st, 2022. And what is so special about April 1st? Well, for those who don't know, Conrail began operations on April of 1976. So if you'd like to learn more about Conrail and the locomotives that you're seeing here in the video, you're going to want to stay tuned to the midpoint of this video. Okay, on this Conrail celebration video run, I'm pulling out all the stops. And I'm running what is called the Conrail Rainbow Years, circa 1976. And if you want to learn more about the Conrail Rainbow Years, Conrail history, and the rolling stock brand names, you're going to want to stay tuned to the midpoint of this video. April 1st, 1976, Conrail takes over failing and bankrupt railroads, eventually turning them into a profit-making railroad. The first few years of Conrail was known as the Rainbow Years. We'll explain about that later. For right now, enjoy the Conrail celebration.
This is the dispatcher. Do you copy?
Copy that, dispatcher. Over.
Okay, start her up. Stand by for track orders.
Copy that. Ready to start this trip. Out. Dispatch,
Alright, this next video clip will be for those who think this train is chasing its tail. It is not. So we're going to do a lap around Conrail Rail, the whole entire layout live, so you can see this train is not chasing its tail. Right now it's going through my workshop around the 080 curve. Once again, this is live, so this is live time for it to get through my workshop. There you go. Alright, so there's one live lap around Conrail Rail. So this is Conrail Rail, train number C76. 76 being inspired by the year Conrail was incorporated, or actually began operations, not incorporated. So here's what the front of my layout looks like, in case you guys were wondering. In the East, railroads were financially harmed by the collapse of coal traffic in the late 1960s as the country shifted to oil. As a result, between 1967 and 1972, 6 major northeastern railroads went bankrupt. To address the imminent collapse of freight and passenger traffic in the East as a result of the railroad bankruptcies, Conrail passed the Regional Rail Reorganization Act of 1974. It was called the 3R Act. The 3R Act provided interim funding to the bankrupt railroads and created Consolidated Rail Corporation, Conrail, as the government-funded private company. Under the Act, the United States Railway Association, or USRA, prepared a final system plan. Identifying the rail lines from the bankrupt railroads that would be transferred to Conrail, the final system plan was approved by Congress as the Railroad Revitalization and Regulatory Reform Act of 1976. also known as the 4R Act. It was signed into law on February 5th, 1976. Conrail was incorporated in Pennsylvania on February 10th, 1976, and began operations on April 1st, 1976. The company's mandate was to revitalize rail service in the Northeast and Midwest and to operate as a for-profit company. Conrail's economic recovery and turnaround began in 1980. Conrail's first year of profitability came in 1981. By 1983, Conrail was the fourth largest freight hauler in the United States. In 1985, Conrail management proposed a plan for the public offering of Conrail stock. By the fall of 1986, the Conrail Privatization Act was signed, authorizing a public stock offering to return Conrail to the private sector. In 1987, Conrail was returned to the private sector in what was the largest initial public offering in U.S. history, raising $1.9 billion. So let's talk about that for just a second. So in 1987, Conrail was still making money. It was not failing, as some people thought. But Conrail was still making a profit. The U.S. government no longer wanted to be in the railroad business. And they had a couple big projects they needed to be funded. So they thought it would be best just to get rid of the railroad, which they no longer had interest in, because they accomplished their goal of revitalizing the railroad, or railroads, and offer back to the private sector, and in turn get money to fund these projects that they had coming up. In the spring of 1997, Norfolk Southern and CSX agreed to acquire Conrail through a joint stock purchase. CSX and Norfolk Southern split most of the company's assets between them. The Surface Transportation Board officially approved the acquisition and restructuring of Conrail on July 23, 1998. On June 1st, 1999, Conrail began operating as a switching and terminal railroad for its owners, Norfolk Southern and CSX. It operated on about 1,200 miles of track in three geographical areas of northern New Jersey, southern New Jersey, Philadelphia, and Detroit, Michigan. In 2007, it expanded its operations from northern New Jersey to Staten Island, New York. And for anybody who knows anything about Conrail, those operations are actually under the name of Conrail Shared Assets Operations, also known as CSAO. So yeah, Conrail technically still exists today as Conrail Shared Assets Operations. The Conrail trackage, the 1,200 miles of track that they run on, is maintained by a Conrail crew with trucks that actually still have the Conrail name on them. Alright, so let's take a look and talk about what is in front of us, because this is pretty much my Conrail locomotive collection. Everything you see here in front of you is all Lionel Legacy full-scale locomotives. Alright, so this is a Lionel Legacy ES44AC. This is a Norfolk Southern Conrail Heritage locomotive. Next up, we have a Lionel Legacy Conrail SD40. That is a Lionel Legacy GP30. Then we have a Lionel Legacy GP38. Right here is a Lionel scale size bay window caboose featuring a smoke unit. These are pretty hard to find. I've seen them go for as high as $200 on eBay. Over here, we have a Lionel Legacy SD40-2, one of my favorite locomotives on the roster. Then we have the Lionel Legacy SD60M, Lionel Extended Vision caboose with a smoke unit, also hard to find. In the back there is a Lionel Legacy SD70 Mac, which was part of the Lionel Big Blue High Cube boxcar train set. Now for the pride and joy of the fleet. This is something else. This is something for me to talk about here. These are Lionel Legacy SD80 Mac locomotives. Now, these are often confused with another Lionel product, so let me explain this. Lionel made the SD80 Mac in the Lion Master name and in the Legacy name. The Lion Master SD80 Macs were semi-scale. They were not full scale. The Lionel Legacy, which you see here in front of you, are full-scale, proper 1/48 dimensions locomotives. These SD80 Mac locomotives are near impossible to find. There are 2 powered units and 1 non-powered unit. I believe these were produced in 2012. Absolute stunning locomotives. I am so happy to own them. I have people very often wanting to buy this set. So, here is my Conrail collection in its entirety. I am so happy to have everything that I got. I just love the Big Blue. That's my favorite railroad. Also, please don't ask me to sell you anything, because nothing here is for sale. Not a thing. I'm keeping what you see. Okay, in the lead is my all-time favorite, which is an EMD SD40-2. This is a Legacy unit. The SD40-2 had a couple distinguishing features. The biggest one distinguish it from a regular SD40 is what engineers called the porch, because it had a longer deck on the back end of the locomotive, so the engineers nicknamed this deck the porch. The SD40-2 also had more horsepower than the SD40. Next up, we have the Lionel Legacy Conrail SD38 with the can opener logo. Lionel also made this with the quality logo as well. I opted to stick with the can opener. Funny fact, the Conrail SD38s really did come with either the can opener or the quality logos. Conrail was slow repainting everything. So some of the Conrail SD38s received the can opener logo, but by the time they got around to repainting the rest of them, they already adopted the quality logo. So that's why some SD38s will have the can opener and some SD38s will have the quality sign. Next in line is the Conrail SD40. Trailing locomotive is the Lionel Legacy SD45 Penn Central. During the Conrail Rainbow years, you would have seen a mix of Penn Central, Erie, Lackawanna, Reading, etc., and a mix of locomotive consists, because Conrail really didn't get into repainting everything until way later on. Hence why the trains in the early Conrail years were called the Rainbow years. Another neat fact about the EMD SD45, it was the very first EMD locomotive to feature the 20-cylinder diesel engine. Traditionally, they featured a 16-cylinder. EMD was trying to get more horsepower out of the locomotives to do more work, so the railroads would not need as many locomotives. Here we have the Atlaso Master Series Conrail 60-foot boxcars. This is an early Lionel 60-foot boxcar, New York Central. This is an Atlaso Master Series 60-foot boxcar. A Lionel Penn Central cylinder hopper. A pair of Atlaso Master Series Conrail cylinder hoppers in brown. This is a special limited edition made for AM Hobbies. Central Railroad of New Jersey cylinder hopper. This particular car has a very special memory. As a kid, I remember seeing these on a siding in my town. Here we have Atlaso Master Series Conrail cylinder hoppers with a different Conrail logo. Next up we have a pair of Atlaso Master Series New York Central cars. Then we have the Lionel Reading covered hopper cars. Also special memory, I've seen these sitting on the out of service line in my town years ago. Heavily weathered, rusted away, no longer being used. Here are a pair of Lionel Conrail covered hoppers in the gray color. Here we have a pair of MTH Premier Conrail coil shields in brown. They also made the gray versions, which I'm still in search of. Next up we have MTH Premier Penn Central covered hoppers. These are kind of hard to find. You guys remember from my last video review, the Lionel Conrail with the panel paint. Next we have a pair of MTH Premier Conrail ACF Centerflow hoppers, 2-bay. Last of the freight cars are 3 Lionel Penn Central covered hoppers. There was a 2-car set and 1 add-on for that 2-car set, making a 3 cars of each with a different road number. And for this special occasion video, you'll see this MTH Premier Conrail caboose. Notice it's on Penn Central colors. Conrail really did stuff like this back in the Rainbow years. Here's a couple photos of Conrail Penn Central cars that they did the same thing on. I'm so glad to see manufacturers like Lionel and MTH creating transition era cars or freight cars, either by using patch over method or painting over and putting another name on them. I hope you guys enjoyed this Conrail celebration video. We'll see you guys trackside. See you guys next video. Thanks for your support.